And we haven't talked about baboons for quite a while. I don't know whether that's just because the residents of areas where baboons live and move have got so used to it that they no longer bother. Is there better control of the baboons? Is their movement more closely monitored? I don't know, but we haven't talked about baboons for a while. But we're going to talk about baboons now with Jenni Trethowan, co-founder of Baboon Matters, because they want to put together an initiative. Well, they are proposing that some of the Cape Peninsula's most at-risk baboon troops be relocated. Hello, Jenni.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Why haven't we heard much about baboons? Is because media retention has moved on somewhere else? The baboon issue is as challenging as ever it was, or have there been improvements?
I think that the issue is as challenging as ever it was. I think the current service provider is definitely keeping the baboons out of villages, but the same problems that we've always had have remained. The current service management makes provision for killing baboons. So problem animals are identified, and within a very short time of them being identified as problem animals, they are removed. But what I noticed, John, is I've just undertaken a huge review of the past 5 years of management. And what I'm seeing is that the same problems we've had in the same areas for the past, since I can remember, are still there. So, for example, Zgama Park still has the same waste management issues. In the past year, 8 baboons have been killed, but the raiding continues at the Navy Flats on an ongoing basis. So what we're concerned about is that with the rapid urbanization, with the continued high death rate of adult baboons, and with the very limited gene pool, some of these troops are what we consider to be very much at risk.
And Jenni, your proposal is very much at a sort of broad stroke stage at the moment, because you haven't identified this large free roaming sanctuary within the Western Cape to which the vulnerable troops might be moved. You're just saying, let's think about this quite a lot more than we have in the past.
Absolutely, John. I think the important thing, what we've put out on our Facebook page is a poll, because it's very important for us at the Trust to understand what residents really want for their baboons. Because this is Cape Town's heritage, Cape Town's culture, Cape Town's history. The baboons have been here for as long as anybody can remember. So I certainly wouldn't want the baboons to be moved. But when I look at what's happening to the baboons on a month-by-month basis, when I see how many baboons are being killed, and it started off with just the adult males being killed, now it's adult females, now it's subadult males, and the disruption of the troop structure, the hierarchy, it's just untenable. So unless there's a radical change of management practice, and unless Cape Town residents really step forward and start taking a much more active responsibility for the waste, I don't see that we're going to be able to save certain troops. I mean, the one troop in Misty Cliffs, it's dropped right down to only 16 troop members left. It's just not tenable.
How? What sort of evidence is there for successful relocation of baboon troops?
Very good. Shirley Strom was the first person to relocate baboons that was up in Kenya. But certainly in the Limpopo area of South Africa, CARE, the organization, has had a lot of success in relocating and successfully relocating troops of baboons. Baboons are unbelievably adaptable. We know that. That's actually why they come into conflict with human beings so much, because they are so adaptive. Human beings are a lot slower to change. We do the same old thing time after time after time. But baboons do change, and they do adapt quickly. So we wouldn't undertake anything at the Trust without putting a heck of a lot more work, a lot more discussion and debate around it. But at the moment, it's just to simply say to residents of Cape Town, what do you think? Are you with this? Would you think it's a good idea? And our poll's only been up, John, not even a full 24 hours, and it's a 97% success rate. Everybody's saying, yes, if this is going to save the baboons, then let's do it. But obviously people are very concerned because they don't want it to be a green light to the authorities that we don't want baboons, so therefore you can get rid of all of them. But certainly they are saying, let's consider this.
You couldn't do it without the authorities say so. They would have to approve a relocation like this, I presume. So part of what you would have to do is to persuade, I presume, Cape Nature that this is something which is in the baboons' interests and that there is a suitable place to which they could successfully be relocated.
Absolutely, John. It would be a very, very rigorous procedure that we'd have to go through. the business plan that we would have to submit to Cape Nature is incredibly, well detailed and thought out. And what we anticipate doing is making it a very transparent public participation process so that, people can see every step of the way what we're thinking, why we're thinking it, and what we're doing. It was quite interesting because in putting a survey out, one of the big concerns is that we can't lead the answer. So the people of Cape Town have to come forward of their own, and say what they feel. We can't tell them what you think or feel. So we've had to be quite careful in how we put the information out and how we phrase the question so that it's a genuine Cape Town response to the suggestion.
Sometimes my feeling has been, particularly when we've had an episode which has got people talking as sometimes people talk about human-baboon interaction, I've had the bleak thought that the future of baboons on the peninsula is numbered. With the level of development for which approval has been granted in areas of the Deep South and so on, that the area left for baboons to naturally feed is diminishing, and either you completely fence them off, make sort of very large zoo for them, or you move them, or you accept a natural and unnatural die-off.
Yeah.
And it's an awful thought, because I've been visiting the peninsula for close to 50 years, and they've been around for all of those 50 years, and I'd like my grandchildren to see baboons as they head out towards Cape Point as well.
I think everybody would, John, but you're so right. I mean, if I look at the development that's happening in the Deep South and the rapid encroachment, there is just less and less space for them. And, we went out to the reserve this weekend, and nobody saw, we saw a very fleeting flash of the baboons. The management, the current aggressive management, has meant that, they are trying to keep baboons away from people. So I think as time goes on, we will see less and less of the baboons, because people are actually the problem. People feed them and encourage bad behavior and things like that. And, there's never been, in the entire time I've been doing my work with the baboons, which is since 1990 now, there's never been one person fined for feeding a baboon.
Wow. Jenni Trethowan, thank you very much indeed, co-founder of Baboon Matters.